Alright, so I want to talk with the team and everybody.
What'd you pick up? You write?
Yeah, what'd you do? You wrote a lot.
Yeah, I got a lot of different things, so I even felt the presence of it around here.
Yeah.
I felt the dimension.
I don't know if you
differently.
worked.
I actually got deeper into it and I saw a lot of what was happening in that dimension. The
Yeah.
frequency's different.
Hey man, I want to say thanks for coming out.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you too.
Nice
Nice
meeting
meeting
you
you,
as well.
man. Thanks for everything.
Take it easy.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I felt a lot of different things. So, and I feel like the barrier. That it's almost like a barrier what was left over. Like, especially when you said that this happened and then you closed down. I felt like that was like something they put on you to have a barrier almost. That they, if they can't enter you, nothing can enter you. And it felt like that was the energy they left over. And you have gotten stronger from it. But it's still in you in some way. And it's putting you in that position to not really doubt, but not finally just say, you know what, I'm going to open up to something better than the way you want to enter me and possess me and control me. Like, I feel like that can be taken out finally, whether it's with other people that you can entrust yourself to. And in a way, we can help you as well, if you want us to. And I feel like that'd be a good step, because from what the people you've told us about, the psychics, mediums, the gurus and everybody, what I feel is a lot of them were just in it for what they could get. And I feel like here, in a position where we're speaking to you, I feel the emotions from you, and I feel like this is a place where you could get help, at least in the right direction, from what I felt tonight, which was almost everything about.
Well, I know there has to be a certain way to detach these beings, because if you're, I feel like in a way my soul has been crying, for its sovereignty, in a way. And when I'm alone, in a room, I want to be alone in a room. And my dream is to be, if I be in a room with a beautiful woman, that I love, but be alone with her and not have any kind of interference, or this reptilian overlordship. That's one of my teachers used to call it, and that's the ultimate goal, I guess, for humanity is not only at personal level to be able to detach yourself from these beings, but also detach the whole planet from these beings and the control system that they have put into place, and to free humanity, free ourselves from it, and create a better world, where there's no wars and there's no killing and there's no misery and not so much pain, in the world. When you look around and you see all the ugliness that is going on, you have to ask the question of who is in charge? Who is in charge of this planet? And what kind of program is set in place where we're constantly creating the same kind of experience over and over again, through wars. So what we need is to come together and I know this kind of information is always been hidden, and people keep it to themselves because you're going to be labeled lunatic or whatever. But I think if people are courageous enough and come out with this information, and we can put our mind together and see the different ways we're experiencing these entities, then maybe we can come up with weapons where, I don't know, I'm sure Tesla had some kind of electromagnetic weapon to tase this stuff off of us, But I know the technology has to be out there. I know the Nag Hammadi library had some ideas of how you can detach yourself from these entities.
Well, I'm sure there are, but for now we're practicing without that. And
sure, well,
we have to show what you said tonight. I think it's very important what you said. They can't have what we have, and they're trying to, but still they're not.
They can't.
But
see, what they can do is
that's true. But
arcanize.
See, that's very true. But we're still here. We
Sure.
can't let that go. See, you've let that go. You've always said they have power over us. No, they don't. We're still here. They are not here completely. If they were here, my sir, I admit to you, I feel your emotions. But you have to admit, we're still here. They have not completely come here yet. And we have a fighting chance to get rid of them for good. But it starts inside of us.
Sure.
I want to help you. But you have to be able to say, no doubt, that you can let this go. I say this from the heart, feeling everything that you said tonight. I have the heart and spirit to fight these people. I may die for it. But you know what? I don't care. All that matters is I put my foot in there and said, no. You're not doing this to me.
Sure. Sure.
So please, no more doubt. take it with the pure love that you need.
Yeah.
With the pure love that you have. And it will always come to you what you need, not what this world can give.
I love you, man. You know, what we need is love, right?
Yeah.
Right,
good.
because it's the most powerful weapon that we have, you know, and it starts at individual level, you know, and I always tell people this is a great way to start is to do good and not do bad, you know, start being good to yourself and others, forgive yourself and forgive others,
Of course.
you know, and kind of give each other a little bit of room to have a bad day or make mistakes, but ultimately always react to situations from your higher self, you know, because we have our small self, the little ego, and then we have our higher self where you know is the part of us is connected to the infinite, to you know to God.
Yeah.
You know, so and you always want to react to every situation, you know, from that you know sense of reference, you know.
Exactly. From that pure love.
Sure. It's ultimately it's pure love that has bind everything, all the atoms in this universe together, you know. And if you're able to hold on to that energy field long enough, eventually these entities will leave you.
Exactly.
Well, it's kind of been hard for me because it's almost like, you know, you tell someone to be loving and, you know, he's being put into fire, you know.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
true.
was talking to one of my gurus that he said that, you know, God has occupied his mind since he was a baby, but one day he broke his arm and God wasn't around, you know, wasn't thinking about God at that moment, you know, because he was in a state of anguish,
Yeah,
you know.
that's very true.
So this is where, you know, I've been trying to research this stuff and trying to learn more, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I put my foot in put my whole heart into what you have said.
Sure. You know, it starts with one person at a time, you know, one individual at a time, and standing for the light, for love, you know, and not falling into the traps, you know.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, so that was some of the parts that I got for tonight. So there was a lot more that I picked up also. I guess I should bring up more.
Yeah, I didn't like really flow like the way I wanted to, you know, this whole thing, you know, there was so much stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I just never got into, but it's just because I should have planned it out a little bit better and write stuff down. I did a little bit, you know, and it just...
Yeah, it came out pretty good.
Yeah, well, I should have
the way we spoke.
a more progressive, you know, way of going through this stuff, you know. But
it's alright.
Well,
I asked the question, you answer them. Let's go over what Marcello felt, so that way we
I
have a little
felt a
something.
lot of different things. So I guess I should bring up just everything I wrote down.
Start from the beginning and go through.
It got, you know, obviously I felt like the shape-shifting and the skinwalkers, I got a lot of history on it and went through a lot of visions that were in the past that have been in the present. I felt from Eddie, he got a spot here, and when I went up to it, I felt that reptilian image, and I felt like it was around here kind of slipping in and out, and I got that image going through here. And then I also had a energy of discontent and irregularity, like that. What that dimension is almost irregular to what's happening here, and it seems like that's what's been happening. That it's very, it's unclear to us, but it's still between our world, and it's come a lot closer to that. And I think that's why, with his seeking out of this, it's a strong trap where people can come from that side, where those energies can come and those entities can come in and say, oh, you're seeking out this, and it's almost like a boxed in sort of, you know, you can't move from this part of it. And I got that opened up detachment and kind of like an eager spirit that keeps on coming around. And I feel like that's what is happening a lot of the time with these entities. And I feel like there was a mental and spiritual way of doing this. How, when you brought up a lot of the mental people in mental institutions, for example, I think you'd spoken about this as well, and I felt like that energy in those places, what those people in mental institutions experience even, are parts of this, parts of what the fourth dimension has brought in, and they are in fact trapped in it too. Whether they were against it or were part of it, there's something in them that has made them not be able to be attached in this world because they have something else to provide for it that isn't accepted and isn't brought in.
I think, if you really want to know about things, you should start interviewing people in mental hospitals,
Right.
especially the people that hear voices,
Yeah.
instead of labeling them and tranquilizing them. I think a lot of those people are locked up for a good reason, maybe because they just know a little too much,
Yeah.
And I remember, they give us all of our systems, including our medical systems, right, institutions. And if you look at the medical sign, it's nothing but a snake. You
Right.
know? In ancient times, traditionally, these beings have told human beings that never draw us the way we look to you, because I guess there's times where human beings have visions of these beings.
Right.
Okay. So they always depict these beings with a snake or a half animal, half human kind of beings, or beings with wings, or a human being with wings. It represented these dark gods, the dark gods of our world. So this is where we have to break out of the box, and kind
exactly.
of be more open-minded and approach things a little bit differently. Because if we keep doing the same things, we're gonna keep getting the same results.
Yeah.
We'll never be able to improve our situation and condition.
Yeah.
Doing the same things.
Right. That's very true. And I think what other things I felt that solid inner voice that comes in, and I felt like it's used in that shape-shifting and reptilian way of things. Like that inner voice especially it's one thing that I felt about it was this frequency, that it's a very different frequency that has much, it's not only hard to detect, it's actually a different emotional vibe, and it takes, whether it takes over your senses or produces some sort of effect that's very different, it has an ability to manage and manipulate you in that way. And also I felt within that.
Well, I can say this with confidence that, most of the people that are in charge of our world, and whoever, most of the people that are public figures, they're hearing a voice.
Right.
They're hearing this voice that's connected to this demonic presence on our planet at this point. And the concept of devil, I don't think is anything more than the high consciousness of these entities. Because once they're linked into you, what I've noticed that if I meet someone who is also a host, that telepathically we're connected,
right.
And through these beings we're connected. So we kind of falling into their frequency, and we become aware of each other. So that has happened to me several times where I maybe at the gym I would be so aware of this girl,
right.
And it's almost like and I do know for a fact that I had a couple of experiences where I met someone and they were hosted beings, and they were on the other side,
Right.
But ultimately, this is just part of the transition that we're going through, as beings, and I think we have to overcome this darkness in order to evolve to a fifth dimensional being. That's where our goal is,
Yeah, and I think there is a what other things I got. But since all the dimensions are clashing, and I was feeling that the desire, sensation, manipulation, and it's almost like an invisible sort of being as well, which obviously makes sense. And
sure, I mean it's invisible now, but one of the things
Right.
happening, the planet Earth and the whole solar system is moving into the fourth dimension, the higher vibration in the solar system, our planet is. So our dimension is merging with them. And a lot of people are having all these visions and seeing shadow people and so on, seeing beings in their bedroom. It's because we're kind of merging together, and things are going to be changing in very, very fast pace.
Right.
It's almost like we are all part of this pool and pond, and we're becoming aware of this other energy fields, energy forms that are part of this.
Yeah.
This.
And that's what I had felt too, that especially with the weaknesses inside and outside of, I guess, the human being, that has been one of these reasons why these entities have had the effect they've had on us. And maybe it's in fact because of these things too, of these weaknesses. And I felt like that there's an experience with you, especially with a connection that, I guess, being in a negative plane as that can affect you personally as well, and that's put you in a position to where what you are experiencing right now, even what you experienced for the last 2 years, and now it puts you in a negative plane, and that's where now you're trying to understand it, you're researching it, and it's taking you time, but there is a definite strong strength that I've seen in you as well. And another thing I felt was that kind of a barrier, as I said earlier, that it was like a leftover, and sort of like there's something following you around still, as I felt tonight too as well throughout the interview. And I don't know, I feel like there's dimensional figures and sort of I guess these frequencies are slight. It's almost like it's so slight, and yet it can also affect in a great manner, like with moving your sword in your room. And I felt like the empathy, especially carrying all the feelings, I almost feel like in a lot of ways, especially what you said at the end about what's happening in Africa and everything, I feel like this empathy especially may be used against the person who does care, where, oh, I'm going to put all the feelings of the world onto you. And because, as you said, few people do have that. Few people do have that pure love. That the ones who do are going to be chained to it. And there's the thing about that is, and the thing that I noticed, especially when you brought up pure love, especially, you know, saying especially being connected to God and everything, that pure love, in whichever direction it forms in, it comes from us. And that pure love has to always come from that direction. So it's not only about suffering, and it's not only about the pain. It's about understanding where we are, what place we're in, and knowing that this, you know, the bodies that we have, they're here and they're ours, and we have to understand it at that effect and not let what's around us and what surrounds us make that decision for us, I guess.
Sure, we brought up the feelings, but you know, these entities feed off of our feelings,
right,
you know, and our emotions. And that's why they always have to keep humanity in a state of disease, because that discomfort feeds them, you know, they feed off of it.
Right.
And they do feed off of good emotions too, however, they love hatred and anger, and that's why there's so many wars. And I know that whenever there's a lot of killing going on and a lot of bad things happening, there's a lot of these entities around, you know. And,
exactly.
And this explains why we have to keep killing each other and treat each other in such miserable ways, because ultimately we're a resource to them. And that's how the way they view us. We are a resource to them, just like a chicken
Just
farm.
livestock or
Sure.
something, yeah.
You know, and they feed off of it. And so what we can do is you know, we talk about love, is to be loving and not, you know, to ward off these entities. You know, and ultimately, I think, you know, we are a experience, but our goal, you know, God has put this obstacle in front of us, and we're dealing with it, because ultimately our goal is to finally wake up and be good to each other and be loving and transcend, you know, to a higher level, you know. But if we don't, you know, we're always going to be stuck in this prison, you know, and so we have to make that decision ourselves, you know.
Yeah, very true. Well, that's what I got.